This is B&A Panorama Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Heichel, joined by your host, Brandon Steinhauer in Aberdeen, South Dakota. And we have one other person with us. His name is Del Rupp, the founder of Ruff International, and also, for whatever it's worth, my uncle. And thank you for coming on today, Del.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor, and I'm humbled by it.
Yes. Perhaps built different, are you, for being on this podcast?
I think we're
Speaking of built different, you've been all over the place. You've been to Russia, you've been to Nicaragua, you've been to Guatemala, you've been to Mexico. You know, what else? I'm probably missing some. Any other places? There's some places in Russia I know.
Yeah, I can't remember what you all mentioned there, but yeah, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua.
Notoriously Nicaragua, though. Why Nicaragua?
Out of all the places, again, the Baltics as well, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and then Russia. But ultimately, and we still explore opportunities in those areas, but Nicaragua is really what stole my heart and a couple of our closest mission partners. It's a beautiful land, beautiful place, and probably my favorite place on earth.
So what does Ruff International do exactly, or what is Ruff International?
Ruff International is a mission association we created to kind of formalize some of the work we were doing. There was a handful of us that are involved, especially myself. Had been on a number of trips down to Mexico and again over to Eastern Europe and Russia there, and come back and some of the people that introduced us to Mexico and Nicaragua moved on to other things and it
took it on as your own.
Yeah, with the support of some family and friends, we created this association.
So what's the main goal of the association? What do you do when you're on these mission trips, and how do you impact the areas that you end up visiting?
It's a pretty simple focus. We, again, our mission statement is lighting the world with God's love and word. We bring God's word, meaning Bibles, bring his love through mercy and humanitarian aid. We do a lot of supporting education, different empowering projects.
I'm going to try and put myself in your shoes here. The first time you went to Nicaragua with your team, what's going through your mind when you step out of the airport? Because you're coming from North Dakota, where it's probably -30 if it's January. But
again, if we're built different, Nicaragua is built different. First trip down there, it was in the middle of winter here, I believe it was, and it was our first or second trip. It was like a record low here the night I was driving to the airport, or the early morning I was driving to the airport. And I actually took a picture on my pickups, the digital temperature, and 12 hours later, I got off the plane down there, and it was record highs. So it was about, the difference was like 130 degrees difference in about a 12-hour period. So it was, not gonna lie, I thought I might have made a mistake.
It looked like a rookie gringo out there. What your experience in Russia? That is really an interesting one right there.
Yeah. Kind of like what led us from Mexico to Nicaragua. A dear friend and mission partner of mine, Cindy Jo Trams, was friends with a family that led a ministry of orphanage ministry over there, and she invited me along, and I went.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's Russia.
Yeah. Did you come out of Russia looking like Rocky, or was it how was it exactly?
More of an Ivan Drogo. He came out.
Yeah. Drogo. No, it's an interesting question as well, because kind of like going to Nicaragua. I mean, Nicaragua and Russia are two countries that don't have the best relationship with the United States government. So, when you tell people you're going to Nicaragua, I had some of that. People are thinking the 80s and the Contra war that the United States led on Nicaragua, and there's some, some of that still lingering down there, but Russia was, 10 times worse. Literally people thought I was getting off the airplane and I was going to get mowed down with AK-47s with guys with big furry hats, and no, but again, same thing. It takes little relationship building, but the people are the people. I think the governments are probably the problem all around, but nice people there, beautiful country as well.
What'd y'all see? Like, what were some of your cool experiences? Like, where were you exactly? Did you go to St. Petersburg?
Yeah, the director of that mission. I mean, Russia is a poor country, I guess you could say. Their government has, obviously money, but after the collapse, a lot of the rural areas haven't rebounded yet. And so there's a lot of orphanages, there's a lot of alcoholism, that sort of thing. So the pastor John Reel, who has passed away since, from Nebraska, he's the director of that, and we visited about 30 of these orphanages that he sponsors in about 10 days. So yeah, it was around St. Petersburg, around rural St. Petersburg.
Out of all the areas, I mean, what were the stories that you have in those areas and the people? What like impacted you the most, I guess, out of all of the stories about the people and interacting with I guess the people rather than the government? What kind of was the most impact story, I guess, that impacted you the most or experience?
It's a good question as well. I mean, in most areas what you find, and especially again places like Nicaragua, is how content they are with limited resources. You know, just a happy people, generous people, with very limited resources relative to what we have in the United States. In Russia, it's similar. It's just they're in unique circumstances right now. But the people, you know, a lot of despair, but still the people are, you know, special relationships and people that work in those areas. You know, some of the people we met that run some of those orphanages, you know, even in difficult circumstances, just really, you know, outstanding people. And that goes to Nicaragua as well, and Guatemala and most areas.
How big or how many people are in the hills that you were specifically?
That community, they say not in the village, but are in the surrounding village, maybe 400, something like that.
400. Okay. And so for reference, how much would it cost to build a house in like in a village in the hills? Like, I'm just out of curiosity, how much would something like that cost even?
It varies again, like anywhere else. Like the mission, the dorm that was built on the hill by the mission, I think that cost around $17,000. But we have things like plumbing, and it's in a pretty big structure. You know, a house could be similar, $2,000 to $3,000, $3,000 for, you know, for everything. It would be kind of a low estimate.
It also supplies jobs too.
It does, yeah.
So yeah, like
Yeah.
it's able to provide people jobs.
And I don't know
Yeah.
if Adam, I don't know if Adam referenced this on, I don't remember on a previous episode, but June of 2019, I brought Adam and a team down there, and they built a house for a recently widowed young mother of 3. So that was special.
Yeah, I mean, it costs so little to do so much in Nicaragua. Is that part of what motivates you to want to keep going back with the mission, knowing that with the amount of funding and how little it really takes to make that much of an impact? Is that kind of a motivational factor going back in?
It would be. That's a good point. Everything, cost of living, everything. If you do, you know, any kind of international living research, Nicaragua is an inexpensive country to live in, and everything is a little less expensive than even their neighboring countries like Costa Rica.
Do you have any notable stories from your trips down in Nicaragua? Is there one specific one that really pops out to you, or is it just like a continual, every time you go there, there's a new crazy experience?
Yeah, the trips kind of blend together. I mean, there's a number of stories that, again, you know, continue to capture your heart. Yeah, there's a number. I mean, if I was going to reference stories, it would probably been early on in my mission work is going there, not really knowing what to expect, and really, you know, discovering that passion. Like my first or second short-term mission trip to Mexico is when I was hooked, and just a couple very, you know, things that you can't unsee after you see it, and it sticks with you when you come back to the United States, and you know, inspires you to continue doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I mean, you learn so much when you're traveling across the globe, and especially in South America. All the stories that you've kind of encountered and experiences, the life lessons you bring back, are there any giant life lessons or things that stick with you and you apply to everyday life after you come back from these visits that you can just kind of take and run with as you go along in America?
I'd say be built different. Yeah, no, Brandon, I would say minimalism is one thing I'd say I subscribe to. Again, seeing, when you see MSNBC on the left or Fox News on the right, just the false paradigm of, what they say as news, for international relations or for, worldwide news. You see it through a different lens than what you're being fed here in the United States.
Well, I mean, when you see it boots on the ground style, everything that you've kind of had in your head before then just kind of washes away, and all stereotypes and pre-connotations of what you think just kind of go out the window. And I think that's what's so beautiful about traveling. And that's why I'm personally excited to go to Nicaragua. And, I've seen Adam's change of his mindset and being built different after going. So yeah, I mean, just going on traveling and seeing all the different ways of living, it definitely changes a person.
When you came back the first time, did you really have a culture shock? Was that the biggest one when you came back to the United States? Was that the biggest, actually, as ironic as it seems, the culture shock coming back to the United States was probably wild.
We're going to Brandon's statement, but does it wash away? I would say it doesn't wash away. I'd say it crushes it. It crushes your perspective on things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like how far you move in that direction. I'd say the first trip was a leap. Yeah. And then getting down to Nicaragua was another level. And then getting, building Ruff International and that experience continues. We just continue to grow and continues to be that much more special. You get your, it never gets old. I could do it and work on it daily.
What are some projects that you specifically work on through Ruff International?
A lot of times we communicate with the leaders down there to see what they want, and it's ironic because they could ask for all kinds of material possessions, this and that, but almost every single time they mention education, empowering things, they just improve their circumstances through education. But as far as projects, again, we're working within some of the church, keeping an eye and being aware of when they have things like, I don't know if everybody's aware, but they literally had back-to-back hurricanes just like a month ago. I mean, I can't imagine, so, that wiped out. They had a few years of difficult crops, and this year was going to be, a decent one. And just as they were getting ready for harvest, they had back-to-back hurricanes that, destroys a lot of it. So we sent quite a bit of, food down there for, funding for food and other aid to help with the damage.
So you talk about minimalist. So what do you bring when you go on a trip? What kind of luggage do you bring along?
We bring a lot down and we bring very little back. It's usually, we're working with different organizations to send larger shipments of aid down there, like in containers. But on our basic trip, we're going down there a few times a year on a basic trip, just 2 or 3, checked large bags, and then a carry-on for your own personal items and personal clothes. And so we just bring a lot of the school supplies and things like that. And just, if there's 6 of us, 7 of us, on a team, you can get, 18 bags of supplies. So as far as coming down there, yeah, it's pretty warm, so you don't need much for.
Yeah, you probably look like you're coming there like you're walking into the house with a bunch of grocery bags and then you leave without.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Takes all the trips, and I can tell it personally. One time we had one of the suitcases and I was riding on the back of a motorcycle hanging on to it as the other guy's driving. I'm just hanging on.
I missed that. That was good. I think you guys went up to the school, right?
Yeah, we went up to the school and I'm bringing a suitcase in the back of a motorcycle. We're going uphill pretty steep at one point, and I was like, well, here we go. It's either I fall off or I'm hanging on. So I had no choice but to hang on.
Welcome to Nicaragua.
Yeah. That's something that I took away from it too. The farther you go south, the less questions you ask. People are hanging off the vehicles going 50 miles an hour in the interstate. There's stray dogs running around. It's just chaos, but it's organized chaos, and it's pretty neat to see actually.
It's a free feeling.
Going to, for example, the Guatemalan hills. I of course directed you on that specific highway. Of course we were over 2,000 pounds and going up hills as high as the Rocky Mountains, but
all I know is that Dodge Caravan was the toughest van I've ever seen in all my life. I'll tell you that.
It's a warrior, pop tire and all.
Yeah, I don't know what. I mean, we were guessing on this, on all the bags and suitcases and boxes we put in there, and I can't imagine how many thousands of pounds that thing was riding on the axle up mountains that were, yeah, but it made it.
Speaking of stories, in Guatemala, actually, we got pulled over by the police one time. This is they have checkpoints, and they saw North Dakota plates, and they probably don't know what that is, but so they just stopped us, and I'll let Del carry the way the rest, because this is one of my favorite stories from the trip, actually.
No, we were blessed on the trip down there. I heard about a lot of checkpoints, and then especially up north, you got some of the narco stuff, but they have, those countries just have random police or military checkpoints. We passed through so many with a van with United States, North Dakota plates. I'm not sure why they didn't spark any interest from them guys, but on one occasion we did get stopped, and the way that van looked, you know, I thought they were going to make us take everything out, but as they opened the back, like there was a younger guy and two older guys, and the one's like referring to the baseballs. We had a bag of baseballs, brought some baseball equipment, and I'm like, you know, in my broken Spanish, I'm like, you like baseball? And they're like, oh yeah, you know, mucho, you know, kind of deal. So I took out the bag of baseballs and gave them each one, and then all of a sudden I was like invisible. They were like looking at their baseball and talking to each other, and I couldn't really understand what they're saying. And after a certain point, I'm like, so what's up? You know, like está bien, you know, we good? And he just kind of looks at me like, you know, as they're talking about their baseball. So
Yeah, just get away from me. I got what I need here. I got a baseball.
closed the back of the van, got in the vehicle, and we drove away with not much else.
So when in doubt, just give the police officers a baseball, and I'm sure it'll work here too if you get pulled over.
A baseball bribe.
Yeah, they'll probably, even now, you get pulled over by a cop and give them a baseball. But I like that story because it shows that the little things we just wouldn't think about, or it seems silly, is like total gold to them.
Yeah, unique circumstances.
Yeah, definitely unique. Speaking of that, we got caught in between two countries at one point trying to transition because they were closing. That was wild to me as well, because you know, we're already checked out through, which country was it again now?
It was leaving Guatemala going into El Salvador.
Going into El Salvador, that's right. Yeah, so we're caught in between, and El Salvador closed their border, so we're caught in between, and they called the guy back up, and he comes back and checks all our bags and stuff. And
it's kind of a long tunnel that you have to drive through that both countries occupy it. And we did all our checking out of the one country, and by the time we got to the end of the tunnel, they had shut down the other side. So we're in the middle of the tunnel and stuck between two countries. But after a little bit of whining, they called the guy back who wasn't all that happy to come back and do it. But
yeah, it wasn't quite sunshine and rainbows when he came back.
What was going through your head? Were you pretty nervous? Like when you saw that it was shut down, were you like kind of spinning through your head? You're like, oh God, what are we doing next? Like, what's the next move from there? Like,
it was more frustration than nervous. So we were just like, again, Renee Shanalek was along with us, and she speaks better Spanish. So she was doing most of the talking, and it was just trying to convince them that it's a little absurd that we have to be stuck between two countries right now. And 10 o'clock, yeah, it was like 10:02 or whatever.
Yeah, it was like 2 minutes.
It closed at 10, and it was like 10:02, and we were trying to talk them into letting us pass through, but eventually they did.
That's right. And we stayed at the hotel right by the border too.
Yeah.
Like steps away only.
Yeah.
That's why it was crazy, because we could see the hotel that we were trying to stay at, but we couldn't get to the other side because of a border.
just out of reach, basically. You can see it. It's just out of grasp.
Now there's a story you probably won't hear too often, but from your average neighbor. Then, but that's cool. That's the cool, the insights and stuff when you go on trips. You get to experience things that you would never even think of before.
Yeah. Have you guys announced that your trip yet?
You know what? That's a good announcement right there.
Now's the time.
You know what? Me and Brandon are going to Nicaragua this summer, and that's actually not a joke. So we are going to be joined with Del. And the cool thing about this trip is we are going to be able to follow our trip day by day. We're going to have a vlog, videos, and if we have connection, we'll go live a couple of times too, if possible. We're going to create a place where people can donate school supplies. And then we're also going to create a place where people can, if they want to just fund whatever we need to buy, whether it be building somebody's house, whether it be buying school supplies, or any other miscellaneous stuff that we need, we can get that through. We'll figure out the way that we can get the funds too. We'll get that figured out. We'll send the link. But we are excited to announce that. So I guess there's the announcement. Thank you for leaking that, Del. That was
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Oh, hey, have you guys announced that you're going to Nicaragua, by the way?
Like
We are
were
now.
on a previous episode, or
No, but it is cool though. We were building up to this. That's why we had another episode with my trip, and we're just like, wow, that's crazy. Like he drove there, but we're like, yeah, we're going again this summer. We're flying down.
I'm excited. I'm probably as excited for that trip as I've been in a long time. So it'll be great.
It will be a great. And again, if you want to support, there's several ways you can do it, and we'll make sure we have all those outlets for you to reach really easy. And also, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but if you're listening to this right now, still up to this point, and you haven't subscribed on YouTube or whatever you're listening on, please go do that. That way you can get the notifications and you know when our episodes have dropped. So another question I have here to switch back is, for Ruff International, how can people contribute to you and help out any of your mission trips?
Well, I'll preface it with saying that myself and whoever comes on the trips always pays for their own travel. We pay for all our own expenses. So all donations go directly, every penny goes directly to our projects. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do it at paypal.me/Ruff International.
We'll include the link, by the way, in the description.
Yeah. And then if you want to send it through the mail, it's P.O. Box 247 in West Fargo, North Dakota, 58078. And if you'd like to call me directly, 701-361-5683. There's a lot of different opportunities. If you think you have a skill or something is on your heart that you think you can apply, to this sort of thing, let me know.
How can they find Ruff International?
The website's under construction. Hopefully it's up in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, we have a pretty good Facebook presence. You can see a lot of our projects and some pictures and videos there. And if you just...
I was going to say as well, if you want to contact me or Adam, then we'll also get in contact with you. And that way, if maybe you can't find anything, we'll link directly to you. So that way, no loose connections. We'll always find a way to get back to you.
And when Brandon and Adam and the rest of the team put up a platform for fundraising, feel free to donate to theirs first.
And like we said, our trips are already paid for, so everything that's donated is directly towards the cause. I mean, what's interesting, we've already discussed this on prior episodes with the Christmas special, but giving back, and it doesn't have to be just Christmas. And if you want to contribute and genuinely make an impact, you're going to get it followed every single day and get to see the trip firsthand. How many times have you been in Taco Bell going through the drive-through and they ask if you want to donate the rest of your dollar to Roundup, and it goes to a charity, and that's great and all, but you just don't know where it's going exactly. So some people don't. Well, when you know where it's going, we're hoping that this is going to help, create something cool and really unique that I don't think too many other podcasts are doing. We're going to Nicaragua and we're going to be vlogging this daily and going for it, and everything that we raise and all donations are going to be used on the trip. So we're trying to be not to beat the dead horse here now, but built different.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, again, B&A podcast virtual mission trip. It's so all the followers can follow along. It should be a great experience.
And then maybe even come along in the future if they find that really intriguing, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add today? Or I see you got some notes here. Geez, I mean,
I think you guys covered it. Again, any questions, feel free to contact Adam or Brandon, B&A podcast, or also myself.
Thank you for tuning in for today's episode. This is the conclusion. Thank you, Del, for coming on. It was a pleasure having you on, and it was fun to have talking, and we'll probably bring you on before the trip starts too. So,
oh yeah,
thank you very much, and thank you for all the support, for all the followers, and be built different.